We came in. Hello everybody, my name is Kevin and welcome back to another album review. And today, I'm talking about the 11th album from Pink Floyd, The Wall. Well, the band have made albums about life, alienation, and politics, so why not do a full 80-minute rock opera that explores abandonment, isolation, and the absolute worst human behavior ever? When the band was on tour promoting Animals, on the last show in Montreal, Canada, the fans were so noisy that Roger Waters actually spat in the face of one of them, and they also wouldn't let the band leave the stadium, so they had to play an improvisational blues jam as a second encore. This incident became the starting point of a new concept, where Roger Waters was talking about how different the audience were feeling compared to the band, and was thinking about constructing a wall across the stage between them and the audience. And also, the relationship between band members was at a low point in this period. When the album was completed, keyboardist Richard Wright was fired from the band and only stayed on the tour as a salaried musician. The Wall is about a depressed rock star whose name is actually Pink Floyd, which kinda rubs me the wrong way because this album is mostly written by Roger Waters, obviously. And the thing is that, the character's name is Pink Floyd, as if Roger Waters thought that Pink Floyd was just a continuation of his own solo work, which, it doesn't appear anywhere in the album, but still, it still rubs me the wrong way. And after Pink experiences a lot of trauma in his lifetime, he constructs a metaphorical wall that keeps him away from the outside world. And God, is this concept incredible. I'm sorry guys, I know I'm basic, but my 4 favorite Pink Floyd albums might just be the ones from the classic period, being Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall. Not sure if The Wall is exactly in my top 4, Metal exists, and I might actually enjoy that one more than The Wall, but still, it's a really close competition between those two, because The Wall is also an absolutely incredible album. The concept can be very relatable sometimes. I also feel like I'm just constructing a metaphorical wall for myself to keep me away from the outside world because everything is just so crap nowadays. The instrumentation on this album might not be all that special. Most of it is just straightforward pop rock with not that many twists and turns, and sometimes there's, the orchestra conducted by Michael Kamen. It might be basic, but still, it really does hit hard when you, combine it with all the lyricism and vocals in this album. It's absolutely insane what you could do with a concept like this and then just make just awesome music out of it with lyrics and vocals that just hit way harder than they actually should. There are a lot of things to uncover here, so let's get into the track list. Or story, if you will. So we start with In the Flesh, which begins at the beginning of a rock concert, where Pink is telling us that, people might have come to his show to go crazy to his music and everything, but behind his eyes lays something very, very much different. And if anyone wants to know what it is, then they must claw through Pink's disguise. And all the while the instrumentation is super bombastic and it sounds pretty awesome. And then the thin ice shows Pink as a baby and his mother singing a lullaby to him, and the song is telling us that, the more support and friends you have, the stronger the ice is that you're skating on. But Pink didn't have that kind of support when he was very little, so the ice he's skating on is incredibly thin. And, it starts out pretty emotional and slow, but then it turns into a slow hard rock banger by the end. Pink starts to build his metaphorical wall when we hit another brick in the wall part 1. Now this wall is supposed to keep him away from all the pains of the world, and his first brick is his father's death in World War II, which is exactly what happened to the father of Roger Waters. And then, in The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Pink tells us that when he was in school, the teachers would always humiliate the kids, and the teachers themselves were also abused when they went home to their wives, who always verbally or even physically, attacked them. And then, of course, there's Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, where Pink's memories of his abusive school teachers become another part of his wall. This track has gone on to become probably the most infamous track on the entire album. It has a freaking disco beat on it. On a Pink Floyd song. Seriously? And we all know the lyrics to this track. Come on, we can even use them in our everyday lives sometimes. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Hey teacher, leave them kids alone. There's even a school choir performing on this track, because of course there is. And then in the outro there is also all these very cool sounding guitar licks, which just make this track even more awesome. And yeah, I do love this song, just like everyone else does, basically. On the song Mother, Pink, now an adult, reminisces about his mother. She was the only person from whom he could seek help, but she was very overprotective of him, and thus became a part of his wall as well, supposedly protecting him from the outside world. I do like the acoustic instrumentation on here a lot, and, interesting fact, Jeff Porcaro of Toto played the drums on this track. The song Goodbye Blue Sky is about losing your innocence, and how Pink didn't know why he had to stay indoors as a little kid when the weather outside was beautiful. Spoilers, it was because of bombs. The acoustic instrumentation on here can be both happy and disturbing sounding as well. The song Empty Spaces has very eerie instrumentation, along with Pink wondering how he should complete his wall, complete with a hidden backwards message even. It's basically an intro to the song Young Lust, one of my big favorites from the album, where Pink is on tour and casually hangs out with groupies all the time. I love the pop rock instrumental on here, it goes really hard, and I really do love this track. But we also discover that Pink is married, and at the end of the song he learns that his wife is actually cheating on him. So in one of my turns, Pink brings a groupie to his hotel room, and while she is amazed at the room, he mostly ignores her, and then starts singing about his wife pretty emotionally. Suddenly, the instrumental turns into a great pop rocker once again, where he has a mental breakdown and destroys his room and scares the groupie away. This track is pretty interesting, honestly. As I said, the pop rock instrumental is once again quite good, but that's only the second half of the track, and the first half is actually pretty interesting. In Don't Leave Me Now, Pink is now alone, and he lashes out at his wife, alternating between begging her to come back, but also threatening her. The instrumental is very mysterious for the most part, but honestly, Waters' performance can get downright funny sometimes, especially when he tries to sing those really high notes, and then once again there's a change in the instrumental at the end of the track. But then, in another Brick in the Wall Part 3, Pink dismisses his wife and absolutely every single problem he's ever had as just bricks in the wall once again. I actually think this track, in context of the album, is actually pretty underrated. Even though it's only a minute long, I do really like it. And then in Goodbye Cruel World, he addresses the fact that his wall is now complete, and he goes behind the wall forever. It is a very brutal ending to Disc 1, and honestly kind of jarring sometimes. I mean, literally the last thing you hear on Disc 1 is his voice completely alone saying the word goodbye. As I said, it is just brutal as an ending. We open Disc 2 of the album with Hey You, where Pink wonders if he made the right choice, you know, did he actually want to go behind the wall and just lock himself away from the world, and he tries to gain contact with the outside world, but it's just not working, and all the while the instrumental is absolutely emotional, the vocals are exactly the same, and the guitar solo is also just... the emotional level is over 100 on the guitar solo on this track. It's an amazing song. And then in the song Is There Anybody Out There, Pink realizes the expansiveness of his wall, and all the while a very eerie instrumental plays. And then in the song Nobody Home, Pink realizes that a lot of the things he loves are just way beyond his grasp, and he just lists off the things that are still within his reach, and meanwhile the orchestra plays some very beautiful melodies. The song Vera finds Pink having ideas of reconnecting with his roots, making references to a singer named Vera Lynn, and the song Bring the Boys Back Home isn't just a simple war protest song, but it's also against people who don't want other people to do certain things. The orchestral military instrumental is absolutely bombastic, and the choir singers are really insane on this one. And then, of course, there's the song Comfortably Numb, where Pink's management breaks into his hotel room, and the doctor injects him with a drug that allows him to perform later that evening. This track has become one of the most popular Pink Floyd songs ever, and you can see why. Every moment of it is absolutely iconic. The verses, the chorus, and especially that second guitar solo that David Gilmour plays, which has gone on to be called one of the greatest guitar solos of all time, and I can definitely understand that. This whole song is amazing. And then after wondering if he should really perform that night, he just decides that the show must go on. I was referring to the song of the same name. We then get a reprise of In the Flesh, this time without a question mark, and here is where Pink spirals into insanity, and he imagines himself performing at a concert where he is a fascist dictator, and he demands absolute ultimate allegiance of his audience, and it is just absolutely insane what he's talking about on this one. I'm not even going into detail. And then of course there's Run Like Hell. Probably my favorite track on the entire album. This is another song that Pink performs at his concert, where he threatens physical violence to anyone who steps out of his authoritarian line, turning his fans into an angry mob. And good god, this song is incredible. The instrumentation that borders on funk rock is just absolutely amazing. The guitar licks are nothing short of iconic. And of course, the verses are really dramatic and everything, and I really love the vocals on this one a lot. And of course, Richard Wright plays the album's only synth solo on this track. And honestly, the song does not feel like one that I can talk about here at home. It honestly feels like I could talk about this in the city where there's a lot of people around. But I'm literally editing and finishing this video on the day it gets uploaded. Like, I really wanted to put this video out on The Wall's anniversary, but I just couldn't get around to doing it, so I'm sorry about that. So yes, I absolutely love Run Like Hell. It is an incredible song. And then there's Waiting for the Worms, where Pink basically fights with his dictator persona, and most of the instrumentation is like really heavy rock stuff. But there are some beautiful melodies in there as well. But yeah, most of it is just really heavy, and it really does give off the vibe that the plot is giving us here. And the music is just getting louder, and the crowd chanting is getting louder, and as we know, the fans have now turned into an angry mob. And then Pink orders for everything to stop, and that transitions into the song Stop on the album, which is only 30 seconds in length. And this is where Pink doesn't want this hallucination anymore, and he ends it. And now he says he's going to think about whether or not he's the reason that all of this has happened to him. So he puts himself on trial. Now, the trial is an absolutely insane song. Pink puts himself on trial, and all of this is going on in his mind. And he's basically guilty for showing human emotions. In this song, Roger Waters puts on like 5 different accents to play all the characters himself, including the schoolmaster, Pink's wife, and also his mother, and finally, of course, the judge, who then orders Pink to tear down the wall. And then Michael Kamen goes incredibly hard with conducting the orchestra, and after we hear a bunch of chants of tear down the wall, we hear an explosion symbolizing that, you know, the wall has now exploded. Pink has now destroyed his wall, and now it just doesn't exist anymore in his mind. So yeah, the trial is an absolutely insane, bombastic orchestral piece that I just absolutely love. Wow, what a climax to this album. And then while the explosion quiets down, the album's closer, Outside the Wall, quietly begins. Now, it is not explicitly stated what happened to Pink after he tore down his wall. This song just notes that, you know, the people who really love you are standing outside your wall, and if you don't tear down your metaphorical wall, most people in your life are gonna leave you to live out your life completely lonely. And the instrumental is really quiet and wonderful, and of course then the album ends in a hard cut, because of course it does. Honestly, this is kind of a weird closer to the album. Honestly, it leaves just something to be desired. So yeah, I don't really like this track as a closer, but I do understand why it closes the album. I mean, it does bring the album full circle. I mean, it literally ends in a hard cut where, you know, the sentence "isn't this where we came in" is played at the beginning and at the end of the album, showing us that this cycle might never actually end. So yeah, very strange closer to the album. So, that's everything on The Wall. I mean, what else do you want me to say about it? I literally just explained to you the full story. I mean, I can summarize this album quite quickly. Great instrumentation? Check. Fantastic production? Check. Very nice vocals? Check. And finally, compelling concept and lyricism? Check. There's just everything that you want in a rock opera and more on this album. Now, why exactly is it possible that I may not enjoy this album as much as Metal? Okay, well, it's actually a very close competition between those two albums, but I think Metal might actually win because, well, even though it did have a 23-minute-and-a-half closer, this album actually has 26 songs, and it goes over 80 minutes, and very few of the songs can be taken out of context. Those being Young Lust, partly, Hey You, and Run Like Hell. Even another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Mother, or even comfortably Numb can't be taken out of context on this album. I mean, you know, you have to listen to this full album to get the full experience, but if you do choose to listen to some songs out of context, make them Young Lust, Hey You, and Run Like Hell. Everything else only works if you listen to the entire album in full. But god, when you do that, it is just absolutely insane. And even if you choose to only listen to it once, make that one time count. I'm overall feeling a solid 9 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, and if you have any opinions, you can leave them in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm Kev from Pest, and you've just learned a bit more about music today. Isn't this where